Okay, so we've all seen the headlines, right? And it's a real head scratcher. You've got some of the biggest tech companies in the world letting go of thousands of people. But then you look at their stock prices and they're shooting through the roof. It just doesn't seem to add up. Well, over the next few minutes, we're going to dig into what's really going on behind the numbers.
So first, let's just set the scene here. For the last couple of years, this huge wave of job cuts has been rolling through the entire tech industry. And we're not just talking about small startups. We mean the big guys. Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, all of them have been announcing some pretty major layoffs. And the scale of this is, well, it's just staggering. To put a number on it, in 2022 alone, we're talking about almost 160,000 tech workers who lost their jobs. That is an enormous number of people. And of course, the cuts have just kept coming. The human cost is just undeniable. But here's where the paradox kicks in. Right after all these cuts, something really strange started to happen. The stock prices for a lot of these companies didn't just hold steady, they went up. Some of them saw huge jumps, and that is the real mystery we're going to unravel today.
So what's the deal? I mean, if a company is in enough trouble that they have to lay people off, why is Wall Street throwing a party? Is it really just that simple, or is there something much, much deeper going on here? That's the big question, and I think the answer is going to surprise you.
All right, let's start with the obvious answer. This is the story you hear on the news, the conventional wisdom. And you know what? On the surface, it makes a certain kind of sense.
At its most basic, the simple explanation is this. Layoffs are all about cutting costs. A company's biggest expense is almost always its people. So when you cut down on salaries, you can protect your profits, maybe even increase them. And for investors, that's a signal. It says management is making the tough calls to keep the company lean and healthy. And you can actually see this theory play out right here. I mean, look at these numbers from early 2023. Alphabet, Microsoft, and especially Meta. After they announced thousands of layoffs, their stock prices popped. So yeah, there is a very clear, very real short-term connection there. But is that really the whole story? I mean, does cutting into the bone and muscle of your company actually make you stronger in the long term? Well, some really serious research suggests this whole strategy might actually be, well, deeply flawed. This slide just lays out the disconnect perfectly. On the left, you've got the plan, right? Cut costs, get more productive, make the stock go up. But on the right, you have the reality that researchers have found time and time again. There are all these hidden costs, like severance. The morale of the people who are left just plummets. Productivity actually goes down. And good luck trying to attract the best talent after that. I mean, who wants to join a company that might just lay them off in the next downturn?
And look, this isn't just a hunch. A Stanford professor, Jeffrey Pfeffer, who's been studying this stuff for decades, he puts it really bluntly. He says, layoffs just don't work the way they're supposed to. They don't solve the real problem, which is usually something deeper with the company's strategy. It's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg.
Okay, so that leads us to the next logical question, right? If all the evidence says that layoffs are actually a pretty bad, ineffective strategy, then why on earth do we see them happen in these huge waves? Why does it feel like as soon as one big tech company does it, a dozen more immediately follow? Something else has to be going on.
And that brings us to our first hidden driver. It turns out these giant corporate decisions, they're not always the results of some unique, brilliant strategy. Sometimes it's really just a case of monkey see, monkey do. Professor Pfeffer calls this social contagion. It's this idea from behavioral economics where actions and behaviors just spread through a network almost mindlessly, like a trend. It's not that every single CEO is making an independent, rational choice. They're looking around at what their peers are doing and just following the leader. And this quote right here, it just nails the kind of pressure they're under. Just imagine you're a CEO for a second. Every single one of your competitors is announcing layoffs. Your board of directors comes to you and asks, hey, everyone else is tightening their belts for a recession. Why aren't we? I mean, that is some immense pressure to just go along with the crowd, even if you know it might not be the best thing for your company.
Okay, so now we get to what I think is the most fascinating theory of all. This goes way beyond just copying your neighbors. This gets into some really clever strategic reputation management. It's all about using a crisis as a cover.
So inside any big company, you're going to find these things. Projects that are basically failing, they're not getting results, they're burning through money, but they're kept on life support. Why? Well, because the manager in charge doesn't want to raise their hand and admit that their big idea was a failure. That could kill their career. So these living dead projects, these zombie projects, They just keep shuffling along.
And this is where it gets strategic. An industry-wide downturn, like the one we've been seeing, it provides the absolute perfect cover. That manager can finally pull the plug on their zombie project, but instead of taking the blame, they can just point to the economy. They get to say, hey, it wasn't my fault. The whole industry is struggling. It lets them blend in with the crowd and avoid any personal blowback.
Now, this blending in behavior, it has this incredible amplifying effect. Researchers actually have a name for it, the magnification multiplier. And honestly, this is a total game changer for understanding why these layoff waves get so big so fast.
Okay, look at this chart. This right here is the aha moment. Let's just say a real economic problem forces about 1% of projects to actually get cut. But that 1%, that gives cover to all those other managers with their living dead projects. So in this example, another 9% of managers jump on the opportunity to strategically cut their own failing projects and just blend in. All of a sudden, a tiny 1% problem has been magnified into a massive 10% wave of layoffs. It totally explains why the response can feel so much bigger than the actual problem.
So let's pull all of these threads together, shall we? We've gone from this very simple, kind of surface-level story to something that's way more complex, way more nuanced, and frankly, way more interesting.
So this is a great way to think about it. You've basically got three different stories happening all at the same time. You've got the economic story, the simple cost-cutting one. Then there's the behavioral story, which is all about peer pressure and just copying everyone else. And finally, you have this hidden reputational story, where managers are using the chaos to clean house without getting blamed. The truth is, it's probably a little bit of all three.
And as we finish up, we just have to remember what's really at stake here. This quote from Jeffrey Pfeiffer, it's brutal, but it's true. Behind all the charts and the corporate strategy, there is a massive human cost. Research has actually shown that layoffs lead to huge increases in stress, in mortality rates, even suicide risk. This isn't just a business story. It's a public health story.
So the next time you see that headline pop up, major tech company announces thousands of layoffs, what are you going to see? Are you just going to see a simple business decision, or are you going to see the ripples of social contagion and the hidden strategies of managers trying to hide in the crowd? Because now you have a brand new way to see what's really going on.